Hey everybody, here we go. Day 6 of our challenge, and we are in our next indicator. Let me just kind of recap. So we've gone through 5, but what really started this is the purpose of the wheel of a success, that each of these indicators are one particular spoke. The whole goal was is to give you a current reality of where your school is. And so, when you take the assessment and you score your wheel, now you have a great visual and common language and awareness and expectations around, hey, where we need to improve. I mean, honestly, a lot of school leaders struggle with their, writing their school improvement plans or their strategic plans. Like this is an annual way to just capture what we think success looks like. That's the outside of the wheel. And what our current reality is, that's our scores on the inside of the wheel. And so that's what, Lauren and I, we spent a lot of time trying to put some sort of visual, some way for school leaders to have that common vision and common conversation. So if you haven't taken the time yet, or if this is maybe the first time you're hopping into one of our calls here, or our recordings, go to 10indicators.com, go and download the Wheel of Success. You'll see it on there. There's a link to it. And take the assessment. You can take the assessment online. It takes less than 10 minutes. And then share the link with your team to also take the assessment. As soon as you're done, your results get emailed to you. You can print them and start to score your wheel. And Lauren here in a second will actually put up what your wheel might look like when it's fully completed. The whole goal here is to help you just create a visual and to do some action planning so you can get better results, right? So this is an example. This is all the responses we've collected so far over the last year, and where the scores is. You can see the right side of this wheel is kind of flat, right? So this wheel is going to jump and bump for half of its rotation. And so this particular short recording is an overview of indicator 6. This is the parent and stakeholder partnership. And Lauren, I think you said this is our second lowest percentile overall, right? This is our second lowest score. Yeah.
Yep, we're at 59% for indicator 6.
Yeah, so there's 5 sub indicators of indicator 6, which is the parent and stakeholder partnerships. And I've really, thought of that word stakeholder, and it's this is a school community that we're really talking about, right? Because yes, you've got your moms, your dads, your guardians, your grandparents, but it's also your community. It's everybody who's supporting the well-being of your organization. So there's 5 sub indicators here, and I think, Lauren, we're going to hit on maybe 1 or 2, but maybe this. The first one, if you scored well in indicators 1 and 2, that's mission and vision and goals and plans. Like if you have that in place, you scored well on it. So really, it's just about communicating that. And we've seen schools communicate these in many different ways. It's maybe through back to school nights, curriculum night, open houses, orientations, right? Those are catalysts, but it's really that daily work. So like, what's that weekly newsletter maybe that comes out, or maybe it's through your social media. It's a picture and some short social media copy around, hey, here's one of our values at play, or here's how we demonstrate our mission and vision, or hey, here's an academic like achievement. I mean, there's lots of different ways to educate moms, dads, grandparents, and the community about your overall success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just add, Tom, while you're talking on the school's mission and vision, is that with your partnerships and your parent engagement, that's a easy way to make sure that those activities are in alignment. We've talked in some of these videos about my former school as a STEM school. And I would say once we started lining up some of those opportunities back to STEM, the engagement was much higher. we started having STEM family nights after school, and all of a sudden the parents and the teachers were more excited to come to some of those events because, oh, we're a STEM school. We are working towards becoming a STEM recognized school. This is why we're doing it. And everything just feels more meaningful and purposeful.
Yeah. And, you made a great point earlier. You said, I feel like, you know, post COVID, a lot of these normal rituals and ceremonies that used to be very common have kind of, dwindled down, or maybe the like attendance is less. And that may or may not be a reality at your school, but just like COVID kind of forced us to evolve how we educated, I mean, we also need to evolve how we educate our families, and how we really rate and rate and engage, but also measure that overall like engagement. I mean, if you're a charter school leader right now listening to this, I mean, the lowest level of engagement is that they chose you, right? Like, so like if I'm measuring engagement, all these families chose your school over probably what they know, right? So that is a form of an engagement, because odds are you probably don't have a transportation plan for every kid. So they drive their kid to school, right? They drop them off and they pick them up, and maybe they bring their lunch. Like these are engagement pieces. So this second bullet, the definition of parent engagement is agreed upon and communicated regularly. The biggest gap, right, is an uncommunicated expectation. So if I expect all of my parents to show up on curriculum night or to do all these things, but I haven't communicated that and had, conversations, then I'm measuring people on an expectation that they have no idea. And so like it's really important that you get clear as a leadership team and a staff, like, hey, what does parent engagement look like to us? And like who are the parents or the parent, stakeholders? Maybe you got a parent teacher organization or some sort of parent support group. Like, how can I bring them into the conversation so we can have this common definition of engagement here? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's healthy engagement? Because we know not every family is going to be able to do all these pieces, but how do we take the time to reach out and make sure that they're part of that, conversation? Lauren, I know parent engagement was maybe the most important school improvement initiative of your head of school, Mr. Kara. He talked about it all the time. And so is there one or two things that he did or you guys did as a group that really, really stuck out and got some really great results around engagement?
I would say truthfully, one thing that stood out to me thinking about him as a leader was accessibility.
Mhm.
He was always accessible to parents. He was a firm believer in, having tea with all the parents and inviting them in for coffee with the principal and truly modeling that open door, come in, welcoming you into the school. Let's talk things over. How are things going? Good or bad, he wanted to hear it. And so he was always accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was invited, I was never a parent there, but I was invited to tea often by what a model he is, for this. So some of you may have that leader in your life, or you can say, it's not my strength. So what does that look like? Or what are some schools that have some really high engagement and participation? And the book lays out some strategies for you. But I think this is where it's really important that you have to be able to be willing to accept feedback if you want a school of high engagement. Now, you don't need to value everybody's feedback at the same level. That's not what I'm talking about. But you do need to be okay with conversations with other adults. And one of the things that we realized in our recent research, Lauren, right, is that most managers and leaders do not want to talk to other people. And this is why probably, now that I think about it, the three lowest indicator scores on our wheel are really engaging people and having conversations, and they take clarity and they take courage sometimes, to have them. So it's important that you have individuals on your team. If you've taken a DISC profile, and if you've never taken a DISC leadership profile, we have one. I highly recommend that in our Winning with People programming, to really help other people understand other people. But there are people-oriented people. Like my son will say, "Hey, Dad, I'm a person people." He's really good and he's charismatic. And when we need something, like I throw him in there. Hey, Matthew, get in there and see if you can't get us right. I mean, so you need to have people on your team that are people-oriented people to help really create these engaging opportunities. And then you as the leader, you can come in and do your 3 to 5 minutes and you talk, right? But what I didn't realize as a principal is that you're always being watched, right? You're always being observed. And so, and in a sense, you're always being judged, right? So, but we're also doing the same thing to our parents. And so we have to be okay, right, with having conversations and creating this agreement around what engagement looks like. And it could be, as I said, from low level to, hey, just get your kid here, check their homework, right? If you can come to one like a parent conference a year, I mean, whatever those things may be. But you have a bottom line of what you expect, and then you're always going to have your upper levels of engagement where the moms and dads that seem like they're part of every meeting, right? It's the 80-20 principle. 80% of your hours for volunteers are going to come from 20% of your people. So it's okay. It's all right. But just what's a common definition of engagement that's agreed upon, communicated to your staff, so they're not trying to put their expectations on everybody. It's an agreed upon expectations, because that's where that fracture and the frustration starts, when we really start to kind of put our expectations on other people.
Yeah. I'm just going to add, Tom, I think that where people, it's easy to come up with that definition that we all agree on. The hard part is, what do we do when it's broken? Someone didn't do what we agreed upon. And I think back to, one of the webinars you just did, where it's making sure your mindset is right and having those tools and strategies to have those difficult conversations and being prepared for that.
Yeah. And right. And your mindset's at the point that if only five people show up and you expected 100, you got to pour into those five, like 100 are there, because those five are there. And if we spend our time and our mind worrying about the 95 who didn't show up, like that's not going to help us, because those five are our vision carriers and casters that we want to go back out in the community and say, oh my gosh, what a great event that was. Make sure you come to the next one. And so, this is a really important category, especially for charter schools or private schools that rely on recruitment and the retention of your current families. And I'll just hit really at a top of the waves here. This last bullet around student attendance agreements and expectations have been adopted, communicated, implemented. Here's another part where, going back to indicator 5, where we talked about culture, where you can have words written down, but nobody's actually following up, right? Or no one's adhering to these rules. And then all of a sudden, you've got a student who's missed 20, 30 days, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, what do we do now? And right, when it's really about being responsive and not reactive, making sure you have, again, common definitions, clear expectations, processes to celebrate and measure, because this is all culture oriented. But also, it just happened to me at the school, that I'm currently leading, and it's happened in lots of other schools. It may occur in yours, but you may have students, especially since that COVID, who don't come to school much, but they do well academically, right? So, like, my conversation with my leadership team was, look, hey, we need to make the school environment so inviting and so rewarding that a kid doesn't want to stay home, right? That they want to come to school, that they put the pressure on their mom and dad to take them, right? Or they find a carpool of their own, like whatever the situation might be at home, like it's a child. and they normally don't bring themselves to school. But how do I create a culture that's it's fun, it's inviting, it's warm, it's filled with value, that like I never want to miss school. That was me. I never wanted to miss school. It's not because I wanted to learn, Lauren. I think it was because I had some like a FOMO, but I never missed school. I always enjoyed being at school. I had a school environment that was all those things. It was fun. And so, but what happens is when we lose sight of those little things, big things occur. And so I just want to just make sure that you've got clarity and expectations around not only daily attendance, but classroom attendance and seat time attendance and all those pieces. And you got someone on your team measuring it, because when it gets over that cap, over that limit, like that's too late to have a conversation with a family about, your kids missed too many days of school. It's like, oh, well, okay. No one told us that, right? But anyway, that's a big one. So this is a really important indicator, just like they all are. There's 10 of them, but they all really start to tie back to that, clarity and mission and vision and your success rate and your reputation in your organization, in the community. All those pieces really line up here. And I think what always, Lauren, here for this one, it's really about how you make people feel, because that's what people are going to remember. So if you've got not so inviting people at the front desk, if you've got some not so inviting, volunteer policies, like you're going to get what you fight for. You're going to get for people that that don't volunteer or don't abide by some of the rules because of how they feel treated. So it's always important to have those high expectations and standards, and just communicate and model those if you want more people to come. Anything else on this one?
My last thought around it was just I was sitting here thinking, the more you engage with your parents and your other stakeholders, the more trust you build with them, and how important that is when it does come time to have some crucial conversations, as you were talking about. Maybe it's around their attendance or discipline or academics. If you want those conversations to go into feeling like you're a team, and you can't be on a team if you don't trust each other. So this is a great opportunity to, take a look and see how can we boost our parent engagement and continue to build trust with our community.
Yeah, so true. And if you are a school that doesn't have a lot of busing like that, every day you've got two great opportunities to get in the car line and wave at people and say hi to people and ask them how it's going. I mean, those in some of the more difficult situations that I've been in as an interim executive director, what created the trust. Was every day I would be in the car line and I would be knocking on windows and I'd be asking people, hey, how's it going? Is there anything I could do for you? Is there like a follow-up? I did it every day and I was consistent with it. And if I made a commitment, like I made sure I reached out to that person, or I worked on it because maybe they had a miscommunication. And that's Lauren's exactly right. I mean, building trust is the key to having these partnerships, and building trust with the right influencers in your parent community is where I'd always start. So whether it's with your parent support group or a PTO or just a group of parents that seem to have a lot of pull with the other parents. I mean, you could start to build that and build some agreement, right? That, hey, we're all in this for the same reason. And you may think it needs to go like a little bit of a different way. And let me just share from my side. And I want to hear your side. But we're all on the same page, and we're all in this, for the same reason. So if you're hesitant about bringing moms and dads back in your school, you kind of have to challenge that and be like, the school's just not the same without those volunteers. Volunteers really, really make a difference. So make sure that you've downloaded your wheel and take your 10 indicators assessment. And if you haven't gotten a copy of your book yet, order it now and then be ready for this spring to have some great conversations about how can we grow our school in all of these areas for next year. All right. Bye-bye.